Greetings, YouTube. I've spent the last month, really the first month and change of 2021, tweaking my mastery setup behind the scenes. I've done a video about it because I was just trying to test out a few things. And I have come to the conclusion that this is my favorite mastery setup going forward. It's very similar, as some of you might recall, to what I've used in the past. And I'll explain who it's best with, what versions of the game it works well with, and what it also doesn't work well with, because your needs as always might be different than mine, and so I can only explain to you what works for me, but I always say that with a huge disclaimer that what works with me and what works for me may not work for you and your needs in the game. So let's open up the mastery setup and start off talking about this offensive tree, which you can see at the top is by far the most tree that I have points in. Now, I listened to a couple people in the past year and decided to do something I never had, and that's take precision down from 5 to 4. I have not noticed a major difference in this from anything else. And I also wanted to say that if you take this point off, it gives you a chance to put more points into the full suicide mastery of the top right. So if you are somebody who very much wants to do the full suicides setup, this would certainly be it. And I caution you that you're going to need to figure out, because it takes 7 points, right? You need 1 point in recoil and then 3 points in both liquid courage and double edge. It costs a crazy amount of units, first of all, but it costs 7 points total. So you're going to need to figure out where to take those points from. Now, what I did was I took 1 point from precision, and then I took my assassin down. I took 3 points. I used to have 5 out of 5 in assassin. Took 3 out of there. Katie Candy helped determine that. This was the big one. I love using bleed champs, but I took 5 out of 5 to 4 out of 5, and I haven't really noticed that much of a difference because it really isn't that big of a difference between 4 and 5. And so that is what I chose. So this is certainly what I would recommend. If you are wanting a similar build to help maximize PI, but you also want high damage, I know that a couple people have told me when I've mentioned my setup, let the viewers know that they still think it's worth maxing out courage. And so that's what I wanted to make sure I jotted down and talked about before moving on to the defensive tree. So I have kept courage at 1 out of 3 for the last couple of years with no major regrets, but some of you out there say that you swear by that, and so that is the feedback I've received. Let's go to the defensive tree, where we will spend our time talking about a suicide mastery friendly setup that really has helped me a great deal, except in 2 cases. So you will see that I have Coagulate maxed out at 3 out of 3. Your champions take 30% less damage from any bleed debuff or bleed passive effect they suffer. Now, this has really helped when I use champs like, say, Aegon, but it has hurt with getting more regen and then more power in general to 2 of my best champs and the ones I use the most, Omega Red and Corvus. So I would recommend this setup overall, and here is the beautiful reason why this mastery setup is probably not going to be tweaked much, if not at all, going forward for me based off of what I love to do. Thanks to my man Triumphant continuing to encourage me to tweak my synergies, I now, in most content, particularly when I bring in Aegon, this is a must. And even Domino, to a certain extent, I do this. I bring in Nick Fury and I bring in Deadpool X-Force. I get that restoration kit that refills, 10% health at the beginning of the fight. And this also is huge when you use full suicides with Quake and Human Torch. So this allows me to run through things like the event quest, the monthly event quests, particularly for Cavalier difficulty, and not have to worry about losing a bunch of health because of suicides. Quake I never fire off specials with, but she takes so much health loss due to suicides that I could still get down to 60-50% health just by that ticking away. Same with Human Torch. So that's been really nice. Obviously Aegon, you don't have to worry about it as much because he'll shrug off debuffs once it gets to a certain hit count. But yeah, this is needed. I still hate that you have to have a certain amount of points. Was it 15 to activate willpower? Because I would put even less in my defensive tree if I could, but that's the rules that Kabam has said for us to use in their sandbox, so I am just going by their rules. So I will say, because I love to hold block, I'm one of the only people I know on YouTube that actually likes stand your ground, not just for mastery, or not mastery points, but PI, overall prestige, but also because every once in a while I will get hit in an uppercut. The game is lagging still, at least for me, as much as it ever has. And when I hold block and it's lagging, sometimes it looks like the defender is like a foot away from me. And then by the time that the frame rate catches up in my game, I have already experienced the unfortunate result of an uppercut. Well, with stand your ground, sometimes I see that I resisted that uppercut, and that was very much thanks to this mastery. Now, maybe the most controversial mastery tree of this setup is the proficiencies, or what I used to call utilities, because I'm an OG. The only mastery I have maxed out here is this one, Stupefy, because I care about that max stun duration. Now, just as a lot of people will push back on only having 1 out of 3 Encourage, I also know, based off of the feedback, a lot of people will pull back out of the 1 out of 3 on parry. They'll say, ideally, you want to max this out too. Look, I ran this setup for all of Act 7 without any major problems. I did not take a crazy amount of block damage either. I think part of my thinking is that Deadpool, X-Force, Nick Fury synergy, because am I really going to take so much block damage that it's more than what I restore in health at the beginning of the fight? The answer, for the most part for me, was no. This was also true even in that last chapter where I'd use extra large champions like Venom, who is also not a very suicide mastery friendly champion. So, all in all, this has been a really great mastery setup for me. It has allowed me to have incredibly high PI with my champion, so much so that people sometimes will message me saying they think I somehow hacked the game because the rating of my champions is so high. You can see Dr. Doom is a 23,000. And yes, he's SIG 200, but that's still pretty exciting. Guillotine 2099, Aegon's also SIG 200, Corvus, Human Torch, Domino right behind. But it goes much further than that, because some of you will watch this and say, well, all I have is rank 5 5-stars. Well, this is the PI of my rank 5 5-stars. Excuse me, here we go. We'll go to 4 stars in a moment. Over 17,000 and 16,000 for my best. The only person who really defies logic, because he has arguably the worst prestige in the game, is Wolverine, who, even as I continue to pump 6 stones into him slowly but surely at 666, is not even close to a PI of 12,000, which is pathetic. But the 4 stars are really where I see the most benefit from this setup. I can't tell you how easy it is now to go through that 4-star basic arena where you just use 4 stars and 3 stars, because they give me so many points. And then, of course, I have so many arena boosts that are just left over that I usually have to use in my stash so they don't just expire. So that's been really nice as well. So yes, my favorite mastery setup for 2021 for a combination of Event Quest and Arena and Alliance Quest and just general questing. This is not, of course, an Alliance War setup, so if you need that, this is not it. Is there a setup you don't think YouTubers have covered that you would like to see? Is there a mastery that you think is ignored and largely overlooked that really has helped you, especially in the past month to 2 months? I'd love for you to put that in the comments, and as always, I appreciate you watching and supporting my Marvel Casino of Champions YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your day.